I'm trying to do like overtones. Whoa. I'm going for overtones.
Yeah, I felt like
you know what
I was
overtones
getting like a didgeridoo. Oh, yeah. Overtones. Is it like when you?
Overtones. It's the stupid thing where if you do a specific note and do weird things with your lips in a specific way, there's like you hear like the one note, but then you can like there's a high note that you can kind of hear in the vibrations that kind of is rotating based off how you rotate your lips. That's what I was going for.
Dang. No, I thought you were going for like someone chewing a hamburger while playing a didgeridoo, and I was like, that is perfect.
You know what? That's a better one. I should have gone that one. And it's funny that you bring up food because this whole chapter, this whole arc is about food. But arc of what, Jacob?
The arc of Grand Line Tourist, a chapter-by-chapter examining or re-examining of Eiichiro Oda's One Piece. I, Jacob Jarecki, am your tourist, and sitting across from me in the virtual world is none other than
Eric C. Vu, certified tour guide, semi-certified marine biologist lawyer. I added the biologist. It's more like a hobby, to be honest with you. You shouldn't be coming to me about any sort of marine life questions.
I think I got the bends, Eric, and I need to know what to do so I don't die from coming up from scuba diving too fast. Quick, we gotta act now.
What the?
Oh, no, you don't know what the bends are, and you just said I'm a semi-certified marine biologist. It's when you go down deep, and you come up too fast, and, like, it's bad for your lungs, because they've breathed air under pressure. You have to come up slow. Come up slow, Eric, Mr. Semi-certified.
I thought the bends was literally like a Game of Thrones reference about being a whip boy for the king or queen. So,
whoa.
I got the bends, so I gotta go get punished, sort of deal. No? All right, that's just me.
No, not quite. But you know what? If you got the bends and you got some time, you should, recover from the bends. And where should you recover? You should recover at port. And while you're at port, you should read some letters because we got some stuff to go over today.
Let's read them.
First of all, before I get to a nice letter sent in by a friend of the pod, Christian, we have 2 iTunes reviews that we haven't gotten around to reading them on the podcast. I don't think we have anyway. Mm-hmm. If we had, then at least one review is about to get read out for a second time. But, either way, we encourage you all to, go onto that platform, go onto the Apple's iTunes Music Plus store, whatever, and leave us a nice 5-star review. We might take a 4. If you're going to leave a 3-star review, maybe write us in at grandlinetourist@gmail.com, and then see if we can convince you to leave a 5-star review instead. That's what we're looking for.
Nameapod@gmail.com.
All right. First one by none other than Cody Ashford, who I think, you know Cody, right? Good friend of yours?
Only in passing.
Only in passing. Oh, Cody. Oh, man. So his review is titled, Makes Me Want to Read, ! 5-star. That's what we like.
That's what we like.
The camaraderie between these two is as thick as any pirate crew. They make me want to read One Piece so I can pretend like I'm hanging out with them. Yeah, that's all you're going to get. Just
that
pretending.
Was fun. Was that last one anonymous?
That last what?
Oh, that's all Cody's. I thought that was the second one.
Yeah, no. The title of Cody's was Makes Me Want to Read, and then this was his actual review. iTunes is crazy. They let you go like a whole extra step, and like you get to title your review, and then you get the stars, and then you get to actually put the review in.
Are people still using Apple iTunes? I didn't even realize people were still rocking iTunes.
I don't know. I think it seems to be the one place where podcasts kind of are like the most centralized podcast.
That's kind of like the granddaddy, right? Like the big granddaddy platform of
yeah. It like so. It is said that your reviews on there do matter as far as like visibility on some platforms. I'm sure someone will come and take it over at one point. Spotify probably wants to do it. Some other people probably want to do it, but we got to give us another review, a more important review. I would just say that whoever wrote this was quite eloquent in what they put, and clearly deserve several book deals. Their title is Fun Follow Along. You can kind of see the cadence of the rhythm of the fun follow along. It's brilliant. It's like iambic pentameter. And okay, that's just the title though. So the review itself is, haven't gotten too much into follow along podcasts or manga before, but this podcast is a great humor-filled way to do both. Thanks for it. Yeah,
wow.
It's
humor-filled.
Well done.
I'm done. That's it. That's the goal.
Woo!
I can retire.
The podcast right here.
Yeah. I can retire. Someone said I'm funny. That's it. I'm done. Let's go. Pack it up.
Yeah. So I'll just that was written by Jacob Jarecki, and we're gonna go ahead and
there
read
we go.
out. Don't know that guy. Never heard of him before.
Never
Friend of the
know.
pod, maybe.
I mean,
maybe.
he doesn't even have a last name, so I mean a middle name. It can't be the same person.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely. I have a middle name and a middle initial and all that stuff, so couldn't be me.
So this functions in two ways. One, it functions in a way that we get to kind of joke about our reviews, but also I hope it's motivating for everybody who maybe gets this podcast off iTunes to leave a little something, and we'll get to read it at port.
Yeah, put a joke in there. Say like, I wrote this only because I don't know what would be a good joke. And someone's gonna come up with a great joke and put it in there. So when I read it out loud, it's just gonna work. And so I'm looking forward to that day. Next day at port.
I am also.
But moving on to Christian's email, he wrote us in saying that it's interesting that your translation called Zeff Red Shoe. I hate it. Mine says Red Leg. Remember, that name is Red Leg. It may be significant in the future unless they go ahead and switch some other name in the future to be called Shoe as well. Then he even hates our translation even more. Leg sounds a lot better. So interesting there. A little bit of a foreshadow about shoes and legs in the future. And
you know, it's weird.
Purposes.
I kind of dig Red Shoes, though. Red Leg is interesting, but Red Shoes I kind of liked.
You know, I was fine with Red Shoe, and then when I heard Red Leg, I was kind of like, ooh, Red Leg, Peg Leg. I don't know. My mind kind of was like, maybe it's a little bit of a ring. I was like, ooh, maybe.
Yeah, we'll definitely thank Christian for that. We'll definitely keep a lookout for it. I'm interested to see what part he's talking about, because I don't, as the tour guide, I have no idea what he's referencing to. I think I have a small idea, but it's interesting.
Small idea from our tour guide. Goodness gracious. Who am I? What kind of semi-authorized marine biologist is leading me on this tour?
I love how in the lore of this podcast, I have all these different postgraduate degrees, and it's like it's all marine based, obviously. It's all water based.
Yeah, and yet I was able to join this with just a Groupon that was really cheap, so I don't know.
Hey, don't diss Groupon. That's 80% of our business.
It's the best way to get into cheap escape rooms and breweries, and you feel like you get way too much for what you're paying. Well, you know what? It's time for us to actually get into the meat and bones and potatoes and, you know, salt water and scuppering of this podcast, because we are on chapter 48, Steer Clear.
Now, Jacob, I'm going to go ahead and hand you this itinerary to read while I drink this grog early in the AM.
Oh, I'm a little disappointed I didn't pour myself some grog. But I'm not an AM grog drinker, personally. But unfurling the itinerary, I see here, what does it say? Krieg is surprised that Zeff is alive. And, you know, he asks him if being a pirate was too much for him. And is that why he became a chef? You know, you couldn't take the heat. Or you can take the heat in the kitchen, can't take the wind in the sails, whatever.
Yeah,
he goes on to explain that Red Shoes Zeff, he got his name because he's the master of the deadly click. He has never used his hands in battle. The blood of his enemies dyed his shoes. And yeah, that's a pretty epic backstory for Red Shoes Zeff there.
I know, I dig it.
Krieg even recalls that Chef sailed the Grand Line for a whole year, and he wants the logbook of Zeff, because the thing that he lacked, he had the crew, he had the armada, he had the power, he lacked the knowledge in order to be able to sail on that Grand Line successfully. And Zeff, well, you know, he says no. He says that log's important. That's a testament. And the whole crew backs him, stating that Zeff took us in when no one else would. Krieg's like, hey, well, you know what? I'm gonna, gluttonous. You know, I'm gonna be the Lord of the Pirates someday. And Luffy, when he hears that, you know, Prince in Waiting Luffy, who believes he's gonna be the one to ascend to the throne,
still
has
wearing
something to say
his
about
apron.
that. He's not pleased.
Yeah,
still wearing his little apron. And everyone's trying to tell Luffy, you know, you're not gonna stand a chance. 50 of Krieg's boats smashed in 1 week on the Grand Line. What are you gonna do? And nevertheless, he's left with that to think about. Well, Krieg takes the food bag away, saying he's gonna return and kill anyone who is still here when his crew is, you know, back to full health, revitalized completely just by eating a little bit of nourishment.
Phoenix Downs,
because that
throwing some Phoenix Downs.
Wait, Felix Downs?
Phoenix Downs. That might be a reference outside of you. I don't know if you played any Final Fantasy games, but that's how you revive your down party
You eat
members.
stuff?
No, you throw Phoenix Downs at them.
What is a Phoenix Down though?
It's just an item. It's like the feather of a phoenix survives them. This is what the food is.
No.
It's a metaphor on a metaphor. It might be too many layers. That's
no. I like it, and I actually just like this idea. I wish when I went to the hospital they just fed me really good food. It would kind of nice. I'd probably go to the hospital
give you a phoenix feather. Either one works, man.
Yeah. All right. The crew blames Sanji for starting all this by feeding Jin in the first place. You know, it's all circling around this food metaphor. And Zeff puts him in the place, saying, "Have you ever really been hungry?" You know, and the crew decides to stand up to Krieg in the end, and Sanji as well, saying he's going to face down the plunderers with full stomachs.
Yep.
Usopp, he wants to flee. Luffy wants to fight. And we end our chapter with a little bit of insight from Jin, saying that when, you know what? How did this even come to be on the Grand Line? And he says it was just one man that took down the fleet. The storm that maybe wrecked the ships actually saved them, because that one man with the piercing hawk eyes that could kill with a glance, that was the one that took him down, and that really causes Zolo to kind of sit up. You know, jolts him into some recognition there, and that's all that happened in this chapter. A lot of back and forth, a lot of characters revealing information, but quite an interesting chapter to chew on.
All showdown.
What'd you think?
In a very fancy seafaring restaurant. It's fun. It feels a little bit like a Western right now, with like everybody's like intense, and it's like the big thing's about to happen, right? Like it's all this build up to this big thing. That's this chapter. That's Steer Clear, chapter 48 of One Piece. Let's just kind of jump into it. We kind of talked about it. The beginning of this episode, this chapter is all about Red Shoes Zeff. And let's just kind of talk about it. Did you like this backstory? It's just kind of a small little dialogue thing that we're kind of sneaking in here. But I think you kind of anticipated a little bit of it based off my notes here. You anticipated that there is a backstory between Zeff and Sanji, but were you ready for this whole like, oh, he's like an experienced pirate sort of backstory?
No, I wouldn't say that I landed that guess, you know. I don't think I wouldn't give myself full points for it. I knew we were going to get some backstory, but this is clearly not specifically between Sanji and Zeff. But as far as him being a pirate, it makes sense. It totally checks out. It's just a thing that was, I think, shown a little bit with the way that Zeff fought, especially when he's fought Luffy, which is kind of cool to go back and look at. That like he's not using his precious hands, right? He's trying to
feet,
Yeah, all feet. And now, sadly, only 1 foot, right?
One foot and a peg leg.
Yeah, so sad. And you know what? Just to throw in my translation corner a little early and note what Christian said, I did go to the translation notes, and from the other translation we have, and your moniker Red Leg came from your shoes, dyed red with the blood of your enemies. So at least one other translation has Red Leg. So just to throw that in there. But
Red Leg, both of them are cool. I like the concept of it. It invokes a lot of fun imagination stuff of like imagery. Yeah.
It's funny though. It almost makes more sense to be red shoes, because even in this translation that says Red Leg, and your moniker Red Leg came from your shoes, dyed red with the blood of your enemies. So I can see why they pushed towards red shoes, because they're like, well, your shoes are dyed red with the blood of your enemies. Those are red shoes, right?
Yeah. I like it. I don't know. It's just what's that? There's an Elvis song that references shoes. So I don't know. I think that's why
blue suede shoes or something.
Yeah, something like that. And that's why I probably like.
I don't know how it goes.
There's nothing related to legs other than leg a day, and that's not as cool. That's just working out. And who does that when you can read?
Well, so what? We got the red shoes. And
then there's also another aspect of it was that he is calling it forced retirement, or Craig is calling it forced retirement, but really, I think Zeff at one point is looking kind of at it as a. What would you think? Like more of like a chosen retirement to like, because his like maybe his want was just to cook. Maybe the pirate aspect of it was just kind of like a means to an end sort of deal.
Yeah, you know, we don't have a lot of read on Zeff's philosophy. You know, he's kind of this stern commander in the kitchen. We know that he's willing to feed this other crew. You feel like, and that's a little bit of like the connection between him and Sanji in regards to what does eating mean. But as far as, you know, what does Zeff want from life? Like, we didn't really have a whole, what I would call a Kuro moment where he decided that, like, I want out, you know? So I think maybe it was just like maybe the natural. It feels like Zeff was more of like a natural human in this instance. Like, you know what? I can't do the thing. I went to the Grand Line. I gave it my best shot. We didn't make it.
Yeah.
I guess they were there for a year.
They were there for a year, and I don't know if that's So here's a little thing to think about too, because a year doesn't sound that long, right? Overall in the Grand Line. But can I just tell you that, and this is a little bit.
I've never been on a boat for over a day, Eric.
That's fair for me too. But I would have to say that most of One Piece going forward, about like this chapters from like chapters 100 to like 600 or something crazy like that. That's like less than a year.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Okay.
Like, so a lot happens on the Grand Line. It's kind of like the most insane. You know how college feels like a lot happens in a year? Because it does. A lot does happen in a year of college in general. It feels because you're experiencing so much. I think when you hear a year, especially now that we're older, I think we kind of downplay it a bit. Kind of like how Craig is downplaying it. But also, let's remember that Craig only spent 7 days there and he had to come back. Right? I think a year in the Grand Line is like a full trip. And that's
525,600 minutes.
Turns of a steering wheel. Dang it, I don't know what they call them on a boat. That's how you measure a year. But you can measure a whole year in the Grand Line with probably battles and deaths and murders.
and if you're right about that pace, then it's probably like a battle and a death per day, right?
Yeah, dude, yeah. So just kind of things to think about. That it is a big year. So I do think that he did go there and come back. And that's like kind of an amazing feat. I think we're kind of downplaying it in our heads. Because we have no measurement of the Grand Line.
No, and well, maybe a little bit of this his attachment to the log kind of speaks to that notion of like, hey, those are the adventures and journeys that we went on for this whole year. We're not turning them over to you so you can just like go in and try to play at actually exploring when we did the work, No,
and Craig is Craig is looking at it like a means to an end, right? Because remember, he's, like we just kind of talked about, he's very gluttonous in almost anything. And he's also very pompous and very arrogant in his abilities, right? Like, oh, I had the men, I had the armada, there's almost no reason why I should have failed that. He's thinking about it the wrong way, I think. And this is kind of the next part that I want to talk about overall with this whole Red Shoe Zeff thing, is like the value of experience, right? And how you gain that. Krieg is looking at his logbook like a textbook. Whereas, like, I think the more important experience here is kind of the first-hand experience of, like, actually doing it. And he's not looking at it like that. He's not looking at the journey as the goal. He's looking at it as the thing he needs to do to become king.
Yeah, it would be like if we tried to do this podcast by reading the synopsis, right?
Yeah.
You gotta go in and dive into the manga, chapter by chapter,
Yeah, because it is the journey that's the important goal, right? It's one of those dumb things that it's very potential that the One Piece is the journey you had along the way. Like, it could very much be the end of this manga, which would be a joke and kind of dumb. But, I mean, I can kind of also see, like, thematically, yeah, I guess that's what it was. But yeah, so what do you kind of think there? Because, I mean, I guess that was kind of a big topic I wanted to hit in this chapter, is this idea of, like, the value of a textbook versus the value of experiencing it yourself and doing it. Like, is one greater than the other? Is there any, like, pro and cons kind of there for either or sort of deal? And do you have any examples of it in your life of, like, of kind of going?
It's funny. I think, to be honest, if I was to really put it out there, I think I'm a bit of a do both. I want to be, which in this case would kind of be what Krieg is doing. He wants the textbook so that he can, I assume he's going to read it and then go to the Grand Line and try to succeed, right?
Right.
And that's probably my MO as far as what I do in life. I generally will look for the information and then I will try to, it's weird though, you are trying to you're trying to make your firsthand experience better in a way. You are trying, it does, I if I think about it really hard, it's kind of like skipping a few steps, right?
Yeah.
Example, in high school when I wanted to join the tennis team, I was like, I'm going to go online and watch videos about how to hit a tennis ball properly before I try out for this tennis team. And then, I didn't just go to the park and play for a couple hours and, like, let me discover how to hit a tennis ball. So it isn't the most relatable thing for me. But I think in this instance, he's skipping a little too far because he's trying to, because this is like a journey, it would almost be like maybe more so like reading somebody's like how to survive high school guide and then trying to do exactly that, and you've never done high school before, right?
Right, exactly.
It's okay to get some tips. It's okay to talk to some people and get some experience. But the second you're trying to like do really well on the journey and kind of pushing what you would bring to that firsthand experience aside, I think you're missing out, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's so interesting too, because, okay, so you and I both kind of met each other doing improv comedy in Orange County, right? In California, right?
True.
And like improv, I think about my journey with improv, and I think about like when I first started, it was all classes and reading a lot of. They give you books to read. Some books are better than others, but a lot of the books are just kind of like they're textbooks essentially, right? I think for me, it really I didn't really start seeing improvement in myself, and this is kind of true in almost anything until I started like doing it live, right? Trying to doing it for an audience, and that's kind of like the experience, the first-hand experience that you kind of gain, and you gain those like the show eyes, as they call it, or like a feel for what a show feels like and what you're trying to do in a show and how you get the most effect out of your audience as you perform. Is one of those things too, and I think that's what Zeff is just trying to say here also, right? Like, it's not just a textbook. Like, your experience is like, I could put my first-hand experience down into a document, and then all of a sudden, that becomes a textbook. It stops being first-hand experience. It starts becoming a textbook that other people can kind of grab and read, and they're not really experiencing anymore. Obviously, it's not first-hand. It's second-hand, and it becomes a textbook, right? But Zeff, what I like here, what he's kind of touching on, is the idea of, like, my logbook is a testament to myself, my identity, that I existed, and the identity of my crewmates and my nakama is a term that we use here in this One Piece world. You know, my brothers in arms, it's our story, and you, somebody who I don't know, a gluttonous brat who is begging for food right now, who is threatening to steal my ship, you don't deserve this. You don't get this story. You don't get my stories, right? You don't get my accounts. Because my experience, again, is precious, right? It's the value of it is very precious. Also, like, Creek is kind of dumb. Is Zeff's book gonna tell you that Hawkeye, like this Hawkeye man, was gonna show up and destroy your armada? I don't know. It's not gonna tell you 7 days in that this is what's gonna happen. Like,
hey, it could be quite detailed,
right? But it could also, like you were saying, it could hold like these islands on the Grand Line. Provide this sort of thing, provide that sort of thing. It can help. It's kind of like a strategy guide in a video game, right?
Yeah, and so I think Zeff is specifically looking at the way that Krieg is intending to use it. You know, he's using it by force to achieve a goal, and it just doesn't seem like the respect is there, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And without that respect, I can see, we're not giving this logbook up.
No, we're not going to give it to you. Yeah, it's just Any other thoughts about just experience versus just kind of like reading about experiences, trying to get the knowledge beforehand?
I think I'm really looking forward to Improvement, Eric's Guide to Improv on the Stage, coming soon to Amazon self-published. I'm looking forward to it.
Self-published.
Then I can actually be good at improv.
Oh my god, you were great at it. You just quit. No, you were done.
No. I got some itching that I want to talk to you about later.
All right. Okay, so the next part, because we're already kind of talking about it, I kind of also like this idea, and a few chapters ago, you and I talked about how working in the food industry is kind of like a lot of first-hand work experience for a lot of folks here in general. But I like this idea that the Baratie is kind of like a found home for all these cooks. Right? They're all kind of like, this is my found home. Zeff is my man. Zeff took me in. Like, we're gonna fight and keep this thing. We kind of look at the Baratie now as a place where it is like a found home, and it's different, right? It is a little different from probably some of the other stories we've gotten so far, or like this attachment to the ship.
Yeah.
It's
almost like, as you look at it more and more, you can almost think of it as there is a crew that's been built up here in maybe a similar way that Luffy's building up his crew, right? Finding different people along the way. But we're kind of seeing it at a much later stage, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's fun to think about. And there's a lot of stuff, and it's interesting, like this idea that you can get an attachment to where you work and the people you work with. And this is another thing I'm trying to tie into our real lives, but For you, Jacob, have you ever felt like you developed that sort of attachment to an old job, and that location ends up giving you some significance? Because, like, in general, when you're working full time or even school, this happens in college too, right? Like, what is that? There's that college movie where Ryan Reynolds, and he's been there for 7 years, and he's like super attached to it, sort of deal.
525,600 minutes times 7.
Times 7,
no,
yes.
I don't know. I don't know if I've seen. I don't think I've seen this movie.
The
With Ryan
overall
Gosling.
question is like, have you grown attached to a certain place that where you spend a lot of time to? It could be a workplace, it could be school, it could be like a club, maybe like a clubhouse sort of deal.
Yeah, this is interesting. I think we could to get a little Jacob therapy thrown in here. I think I very much get attached to places I've spent a lot of time in, and at some point when you either leave or move on from them, I kind of get afraid to go back.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like, I haven't visited my old elementary school, I haven't visited my old high school, I haven't really visited my last like software engineering job place. You know, I've never really like redone a trip, you know, to a place that had a lot of significance, and I think it's something to grow on and to get better at, because I think that is, I think it's kind of like a good nostalgia, you know, as long as it wasn't a horrible time in your life. I think what you can kind of revisit is that feeling of that location, and I think understanding what that is important, because you only get to spend so much time here, and like where you pick to spend it is crucial, you know, like it's kind of a beautiful thing. You are giving those places lots of meaning by your presence there, and I think it's good to acknowledge, as opposed to just kind of like not think too hard about it.
No, I hear you. I kind of think about this idea about found home as a very interesting thing, right? And that's why I'm just putting on anything where you spend a lot of time in a certain area, you develop like a attachment to it. And I think most people will feel it when they leave high school, probably, and home, literally, because you spend 18 years with your parents and everything, and now you're about to go like far away if you are leaving, right? Like that's an interesting experience. That's kind of like, it's relatable to this, where it's literally Krieg is like, I'm taking this, so I'm gonna feed my men, and I'm taking this from you guys. So yeah, so you kind of see why the cooks are like, we're gonna fight and keep it, because if somebody was to come home, or if someone was to tell you that they're gonna invade your home, you would probably fight as hard as these guys are. Like, I can't do this. It means too much. It means all these people here mean a lot to me. And you probably get the same feeling from like your workplace, especially if you spend like 40 hours full times there. 40 hours times the years is a lot. Like, you spend a lot of hours there.
No, you got me. You made me think of a really interesting thought, which is, you can always say like, isn't every movie a love story, yada yada, but like, isn't every story a story about people that spent time at a place? And like, isn't it? I'm just thinking there's a common plot where someone is trying to take people away from a place or a thing, you know, and those people want to defend that thing, you know.
Some
and I
people,
think it's very
someone's
common.
trying to disrupt the happy village, right? Like Act 1, Happy Village. Well, someone is coming to mess around with that happy village. Like,
or you like, and well, the thing is, I just realized that like, even when you get to the point where it's like, oh, aliens are invading Earth, it's like, oh, well, the humans are the community, they've spent the time on Earth, it's important. Aliens trying to push them away, that's a big happy village. So I think like, there's actually a lot of versions of someone coming to disrupt the happy village that is maybe more common than I thought it was. I never really thought of stories of this as like an archetypal story, but it definitely is, you know.
There's always like, most stories, the stories don't function without change, right? Like, a story needs to be affected by a change or impending change for characters to essentially move forward, right? Because we as humans, I think we do need the only way we can grow is through change, is through these different things, is through adversity, is through experiencing change. Because I think if you kind of like stagnant water, right? If you leave just water sitting there, eventually you don't want to mess around with that water anymore, because things in it have gone very toxic. You know, you don't want to drink it, you don't want to.
I want to mess around with that water.
Yeah, and it's kind of
mess
the
with
things,
it.
because a story like we as humans, we're reading and experiencing stories because we want to see people change. You know, in this case, which is fun because we're kind of, even Luffy is an idea of like, he is a one character who you kind of show that doesn't really change from arc to arc. And that's okay, because he's kind of the thing that is changing is the world around him, typically, right? Which is a very cool thing that One Piece is doing, you know. But most stories, the protagonist, the lead character, is the guy who changes constantly, and he has to go from this area to this area, and that's what makes an interesting story. And the way you can do that a lot of the time in storytelling is, this is the happy village. This is the thing forcing the happy village to change, and our characters that they want to keep the happy village to change, like the same, has to change. Like something has to change to keep this the same. Like it just can't happen that way. So,
you know, and in One Piece especially, there's probably like, you can imagine, naval base, you know, and Luffy and crew are the ones that are coming and changing it. And then we have like the Orange Town. Is that the town where Buggy invaded?
Yeah, somewhere over there. I think it was Orange Town. It was a weird name.
So we got, and then like, you know, Buggy comes, and now Happy Village disrupted, right? And now we have Baratie, Happy Village disrupted. So it's like, you know, we'll see. New theory. Every arc of One Piece is Happy Village disrupted.
And you know, sometimes when we kind of show you what's happening on the back end of storytelling and stuff like that, some people are like, well, now I just can't stop seeing it. I see it all the time. But I mean, like, there's a lot of, you can still get a lot from a story, even though you know, like, it's not a trick. At the end of the day, it's just basic storytelling, and you can still get a lot of value out of, like, well, how did this story take advantage of the Happy Village trope? You know?
Yeah.
And where does it start? With you. Yeah, and you get a lot of fun out of it. At least for you and me, because I know you and I vibe on the storytelling level, and we like the craftsmanship of these things, right? Like putting it all together. So it is something interesting to see how this Happy Village is different from, like, the Syrup Usopp Arc Village as compared to, like, for example, Kobe's Happy Village was a bad Happy Village. Like, he was a tour boy for Iron Mace Alvida, I think was her name.
Yes.
And like, that was his norm. That was his status quo. He wasn't gonna change that. He was working towards a change, and then he wasn't gonna do it, right? And it's fun that Luffy comes and he influences the change in a positive way, in a different way too.
Very cool. Well, you know what? I think we've dug pretty deep into storytelling themes, and as well as, you know, our personal feelings in regards to those storytelling themes. Are you ready to jump on out with a couple of ha-has, a couple of jokes?
Yeah, let's do some jokes. Let's do some ha-has.
Chore boy. That's my favorite part of this chapter.
When he's like, that's my goal.
That's my goal. And everyone looks at him, this kid with an apron. Chore boy, you're going to challenge Krieg?
Yeah, it's great.
And it reminds us that until you see Luffy do stuff, like specifically with his like powers, like, it's funny. I think he's always underestimated because of him not showing his powers, but it's also just an underestimate of what can his type of personality bringing people together accomplish, you know?
Yeah.
Is maybe the bigger change that Luffy enacts, but in general, what we see is these people like that have never seen him stretch, right? And then all of a sudden they'll see him stretch and they'll be surprised. But there's two aspects to that.
It's also, I know we're in the haha section, but I'm in a very analytical mood this morning, apparently. But it's also his design as a character. I think he's designed he's designed down. He has a vest, he has some frayed jean shorts, and a hat.
He's got sandals on, Eric.
And sandals, man. That's what this boy is. He is a chore boy, right? He looks like a chore boy. But look at every villain he has fought so far. Like, every fight and every arc has been showy. It's like, I think Oda does it on purpose, right? Each and every one of them has a lot going on to for them design-wise. A lot of intimidation, right? They're muscular. Axe Hand Morgan literally had an axe and a steel jaw, right? And he repped his Navy stuff like a beach bodybuilder sort of deal, right? Like, he exudes intimidation. Let's take also Krieg, for example. This man is covered in gold and covered in guns. He is gluttonous and he's huge and he's this bulking things. So yeah, a lot of people underestimate Luffy because Luffy looks like a kid. Like, he looks like a 16-year-old man who probably partakes in the Happy Smokes, right? Like, that's what he looks like. He doesn't look like a man who can beat you up, you know?
And you ever gotten beat up by a guy with sandals before, Eric?
Oh yeah, plenty of times. Right? It's the people that you least expect usually are the ones who come in with a lot. And also, Luffy's just a guy who shows by example. He's not going to show up and do things like kind of profess like, oh, I am this man. Like, he doesn't hit strangers for no reason, right? But when you say that you're going to do One Piece, he's going to go after you. my haha moment actually comes right after this, which is that we get this kind of misdirect of people, of like, you think the crowd is talking, and it's stuff, and then I think the line is something along the lines of like, did you hear what he just said? He says that, like, Krieg lost, what was it? We get silhouettes talking in the distance, who I think is just random shadows, say, can't we just call it off? Going there is suicide, and then the other voice says, stay quiet, stay out of this, and then we get the reveal of, it's Usopp and Zolo talking in the distance, which I thought was just a fun joke.
It was cool, and you can see the nose a little bit of Usopp too.
Yes.
If you wanna get in early, if you're paying attention, you can call it out even in that panel. But you're right, you kind of have like, oh, these people in the distance.
Yeah, which is such a fun little thing of like, oh yeah, I guess they're still here.
Yeah, just sitting around. Yeah, they're on the Baratie as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I did. There's quite a few, but I'll call out one more. First, you save them, and then you kill them. And this is, Patty talking to Sanji, I believe. Saying that like,
that's the other side
save
of it
them, then
too,
you're gonna
right?
kill them.
To Zeff and Sanji, dying of hunger is nothing any man should experience. But I'll kick you to death. Like that. At least you're not hungry. It's a fun little kind of very intense way of looking at eating and food, I think. My other favorite joke was Krieg was like, you that's the size of your crew is 3 guys, and then Luffy's like, no, there's 2 more, and Sanji's like, don't count me yet.
Oh, he doesn't say yet. I think Sanji doesn't want to. He's not into the Luffy pirate crew yet. Yet's from us, not from Sanji. But,
right. But Sanji's like, don't, come on, bruh. That's all the ha-has I have. You have any more ha-has from this chapter?
Oh, no, I think that's plenty. We've all laughed a bit, and now it's time to take our rustling abs that have developed through such laughing and jam them against each other, because it's time for the panel battle. When panels, papers go flying off the page and meet each other in midair in the middle of the internet, because we're going to pick our favorites, have them duke it out, and we're going to have you, the listeners of the Grand Line Tourist podcast, also, come join the battle too and tell us who is right, who is wrong, as we attempt to discern for ourselves, who's going to win.
All right, who's going to win? So if you want to join into the battle, understand that it's not just a one-on-one battle. It could be a 2v1. It could be a 1v1, v1, v3. I mean, it depends on who's tossing in panels, right? So toss it in ahead of time. We'll even save them for the future.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? Well, the way you do that is you email in at nameupodcast@gmail.com.
grandlinetourist@gmail.com. I'm gonna have to get that domain now. There's no way it's taken. Nameofpodcast@gmail.com will go to somebody else.
Well, I'm gonna be like the man I know the most of from this chapter, and I'm gonna throw my very clean color shoes in my first attack to hopefully make them red.
Oh my goodness, this is a fantastic choice. This is Krieg talking about Red Shoes Zeff, master of the deadly kick, who never used his hands in battle. That awesome leg strength could smash bedrock and even leave footprints in steel. And we just have this like darkened silhouette of younger Zeff with like a cape and his shoe just straight up in the air. So you can imagine one foot is on the ground, and if you follow that leg all the way up, it's just like a straight line of, the foot getting ready to come down and leave a footprint in steel. It's smashing bedrock that is aligning kind of the outline of the frame.
So you think it's like the action is him coming down?
I thought so. I thought this was the leg. The leg had to come up too. So I think there's a big motion of leg coming up, and I think it's coming down though. And then like the next moment, I feel like you kick up and then you kick down.
He's kicking up was the force that I got.
No, you're right. Because you can definitely see the bedrock at the top. I think I just. That angle of foot, for me, implies the foot's going to come down. But you're also right. In this panel, all we know for certain is that it's going up and doing some damage to the bedrock above, which is still
Can I ask
really
you
cool.
What's behind Zeff's silhouette? Did you notice this?
Oh, the little thing to the left of it. Wait.
No, right behind, yeah.
Oh, wait. Is it a footprint?
It's a footprint!
Oh no, Eric, you did it again! You just keep showing me details that I didn't see. So, wait a second. Is that just... that's just like a... kind of like a visual iconography for him, right? It's not literally, there's no footprint in the
No,
air
I'm pretty sure it's just like all of this is like, because it's half silhouette, have Krieg talking about the awesomeness of Rescue Zeff, right? And I think it's just a cool little thing. Like behind him is a footprint. He's kicking the rocks, and also I just have to, because remember a long time ago I drew a chibi version of Luffy, and we we're like, we can't figure out. Like, we know ideally the pieces of Luffy is there, but we know that it's not him because something's missing. This is another example of how Oda, I can tell that Zeff just from the smile and the hair of the silhouette. You know, like I could tell that's enough pieces for me to go, oh, that is young Zeff.
I actually, so those little white marks in the middle there, that's Zeff smiling.
I think so, yeah.
That's interesting. No, I didn't get it as a smile, but I can kind of see what you're saying. I definitely didn't know about the footprint, and I actually definitely didn't analyze whatever those white marks actually are.
It's just crazy that he was able to do that with a silhouette. Like, I know they're talking about Zeff, so maybe the idea of seeing Zeff's name, I can attach it to the silhouette. But I think like there's some artistry to Zeff there, like to some of that idea of like the silhouette is very good at conveying the information that this is Zeff. That's him.
Yeah, no, this is an interesting one too, because when you have a character that's come so far, and like I think gotten a little bulkier, lost a limb, right? You still have to convey somehow that this is the same person, right? Mm-hmm. Even though this is not only a silhouette of like an existing character, it's like a silhouette of a character we've never really seen before. It's kind of like if we were to somehow get you all of a sudden see really young Shanks, right? And we somehow have to know it's Shanks. And
we did see young Shanks
Oda.
too.
Yeah, well, we didn't see not super young Shanks, right? We just saw younger Shanks.
He was pretty young
see,
in the flashback in Buggy's arc.
Oh yeah, no, but it's not like it wasn't the same level of like it wasn't like young Luffy young. It was somewhere like more like Luffy age.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I had a tinfoil time, but I'm gonna call it out now because you reminded me of it. And sometimes these things just come across to me, and in a moment of pure brilliance, I think if Shanks hasn't yet, at some point, he will eat some devil fruit. That is my tinfoil.
Chapter 48. You all heard it, folks.
Yeah, no, getting this one in early. It feels like to be on the level of Luffy, to be like a true like parallel character. I feel like that has to happen. And if it hasn't happened yet, it will. That's my call. But I did not mean to interrupt what is supposed to be a rip-roaring battle. Let me go ahead and grab my panel for you.
Do it, do it, do it.
I'm doing it. It's coming.
Boom.
Though I don't think I'm going to be able to be as revealing as you are. You've shown me so many amazing things just through your panel choices and some of the details in them. But Eric, it's time. What do you think of the panel I have sent across to you?
Yeah, let me take a look. Let's see. It is a close-up of Sanji's eyes, and he's really intense, and his eyebrows are curly. Curls in a very unnatural way.
No, it is revealing new stuff.
It's kind of curled. It reminds me of like a bass clef for whatever reason. But anyways, I'll read the dialogue.
Oh God, gosh dang it! Stop noticing details, Eric. It's my panel, okay?
If they try to take over this ship, I'll slaughter them without mercy, and that goes for you too, Jacob Jarecki. That's weird that he calls you out directly in this panel.
I know. I mean, it's almost like I was there with Aichiro Oda, and he's like, Jacob, leave. I need to finish One Piece.
No, that's a reference. He's talking to Jin.
He's talking to Jin. Yeah, he's telling Jin that, hey, that is, we may have kind of had a moment there, but things are going down.
They're working very hard to make Jin a nice guy, don't you think? Like, they're making Jin feel like a nice person.
Jin's an interesting character. He's one of the stranger ones because his characterization is just that he's befuddled that his captain could trick him, even though his captain is known for trickery.
That's what that dude does.
Kind of a silly guy,
right? Like, Jin, he's loyal. He's loyal to a fault, I think.
Yeah, but here I just really liked. This is just like what I've felt about Sanji's ability to turn on a dime and to be incredibly violent is represented so well in this shadowing. And what I didn't realize was an eyebrow, or I just didn't look at it. I don't know what's wrong with me, Eric. I'm attracted to words. This is why I can't watch movies with subtitles. My eyes cannot see picture and words at the same time.
Oh, I get that.
But I slow down when reading manga, so I see a lot of them. But I didn't notice that awesome eyebrow that is definitely treble clef shaped. So well done.
Yeah. This is a cool panel. I like it too. I do like the shift. I think usually when we talk about like fan favorites of crew members, I think Sanji and Zolo are up there, mostly because they're so... Well, those are two characters who are more adapted to violence also, right? They're the ones who, like, kind of stick up for things.
Fan favorite? I feel like that means Sanji is not going to be gone anytime soon. Even though, I mean, I did have some inklings that Luffy has narrowed in an eye on a potential crewmate.
I'm wondering, too, I think that they are in it. I think in the things that you're reading, in the volumes, they do fun little, like, snapshots of fan polls throughout that year. So it's kind of fun to see how the fans have changed their liking over the years, because we literally have it on paper. We have the history of One Piece as it went through in a snapshot of that specific year and that time. It's crazy to see who they liked. It's always fun.
Dang.
All right.
Very cool. I think this is a good panel battle because I like when we both notice new things in the panel, and by that I mean mostly me noticing new things in both my own panel and in yours. So,
oh man, so
well
much
done.
Fun. I love
well done, Mr. Tour Guide.
Well done to you, Mr. Tourist.
Oh, well, thank you.
I am trying to think of a sound, a unique sound. Let's do the sound of a foot straight up destroying a bedrock.
Okay, yeah, no, and since you thought that foot was kicking upwards, I'll let you get to do the initial kick up into the sky, and I'm going to be the one who gets to do the kick on the way down. So
I was just going to suggest that, too. I usually feel like I'm the reaction noise, so I'm glad that you're the reaction noise. I'm the
exactly
noise. All right, you ready?
Let's do this. Ready.